Why is the US so religious compared to other rich countries? Let's start with something strange. Imagine you're looking at a map of the world's wealthiest countries. On one side, you see places like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany, France, Japan, nations with high standards of living, advanced economies, strong education systems. And in those countries, religion plays a very small role in daily life. Churches are often empty, religious affiliation keeps dropping, and belief in God is no longer central to people's identities. But then, right in the middle of this list, one country looks completely different: the United States, the richest democracy on earth, the world's cultural powerhouse, the place of Silicon Valley, Wall Street, Hollywood, and yet also the country where huge majorities still say they believe in God, where churches remain filled, and where religion continues to shape politics, education, and even the national identity. So here's the big question. Why is the United States of all wealthy nations so much more religious? Why do Americans cling to faith while most of the developed world seems to move away from it? To answer that, we have to go on a journey through history, politics, culture, immigration, and even psychology. And trust me, the answers are more surprising than you think. First, let's understand the contrast. In places like France or Sweden, less than 20% of people say religion is very important in their lives. In the US, that number has historically hovered around 50 to 60%. And even though it's dropping among younger generations, it's still way higher than in Europe. In fact, America is often called an outlier, a country that's both extremely rich and extremely religious. Usually, as societies get wealthier, more educated, and more technologically advanced, religiosity declines. That's the pattern social scientists call secularization theory. But the United States broke that rule. Why? To answer that, we need to go all the way back to the very beginning, the birth of the nation. Unlike Europe, where religion was tied to monarchies and state churches, America was founded by people who wanted religious freedom. Puritans, Quakers, Baptists, they came from England and Europe because they were persecuted back home. Religion wasn't just a private matter for them. It was their entire reason for starting a new life across the ocean. The First Amendment guaranteed freedom of religion, which sounds like a move towards secularism. But in practice, it meant the opposite. Instead of one dominant state church, America became a marketplace of faith. Churches had to compete for followers. Preachers had to attract audiences. And this competition made religion vibrant, innovative, and deeply woven into American culture. Think about it. In Europe, if the state supports your church, you don't need to work hard to keep people coming. But in America, if your church doesn't inspire, it dies. This religious free market created revival after revival, the famous Great Awakenings of the 18th and 19th centuries, that turned religion into a powerful, emotional, and highly personal force. But it wasn't just freedom of religion. It was also the idea that America itself was chosen by God. From the Puritans who spoke of building a city upon a hill, to later presidents who called the nation God's chosen land, religion became tied to patriotism. Being religious was seen as part of being a good American. Even today, when politicians end speeches with "God bless America," it reflects this deep connection between national identity and faith. Compare that to Europe, where religion and nationalism often clashed. Think of the Catholic-Protestant wars, or the French Revolution's battle against the church. In America, religion was never toppled by revolution. Instead, it marched hand in hand with democracy and freedom. Now, add another piece to the puzzle: immigration. America has always been a land of immigrants, and each new wave brought its own faith. Irish Catholics, Italian Catholics, Jewish immigrants, Muslims, Hindus, all came and built their own communities. Religion became a way to preserve identity and tradition in a new land. Instead of weakening religion, diversity actually made it stronger. Different groups built their own schools, hospitals, and charities. They competed, but also reinforced the idea that faith was a central part of life in America. Again, unlike Europe, where secular states slowly took over education and healthcare, in the U.S., churches remained vital institutions. Here's another turning point: the Cold War. In the mid-20th century, religion in America took on a new role, a weapon against communism. The Soviet Union was officially atheist, so the U.S. doubled down on its religious identity to contrast itself. That's when "In God We Trust" was added to U.S. currency, and "Under God" was added to the Pledge of Allegiance. Suddenly, being religious wasn't just personal, it was patriotic. To be an American was to believe in God, and atheism was seen as un-American. This political reinforcement of religion kept it strong long after Europe had started drifting towards secularism. Fast forward to the present, and you can see how deeply religion still shapes American politics. Debates about abortion, same-sex marriage, school prayer, and even climate change are often framed in religious terms. Evangelical Christians in particular form a powerful voting bloc, especially in Republican politics. And because religion is tied to politics, it stays visible, relevant, and emotionally charged. In Europe, where politics is mostly secular, religion feels like a private matter. In the U.S., it's front-page news. But beyond politics, there's something more human: community. In a country as big and individualistic as America, religion has long provided a sense of belonging. Churches aren't just places of worship. They're social hubs, places where people make friends, find support, and get help in tough times. In Europe, the welfare state often plays that role: healthcare, unemployment benefits, strong unions. In the U.S., where the welfare system is weaker, churches step in. They feed the hungry, help the poor, and provide networks of support. So, religion fills a gap that government services don't. Here's another uniquely American twist: the rise of the prosperity gospel, the idea that God rewards faith with success and wealth. This belief fits perfectly with America's culture of individualism and capitalism. If you work hard, believe strongly, and stay faithful, you'll be blessed with material success. This blend of religion and the American dream keeps faith attractive, even for people chasing success in a highly competitive society. Compare that to Europe, where religion often preached humility, sacrifice, or collective duty, not exactly appealing in modern capitalist culture. So, why is the U.S. so religious compared to other rich countries? Because it was founded on religious freedom that encouraged competition and innovation in faith. Because religion became tied to national identity and patriotism. Because immigration reinforced religion as a community anchor. Because the Cold War politicized faith as a marker of American values. Because churches provide community and support in ways the government doesn't. And because the prosperity gospel aligns religion with capitalism and the American dream. It's not one factor, it's all of them together. But here's the twist: things may be shifting. Younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, are less religious than their parents and grandparents. The number of Americans with no religious affiliation, the so-called knowns, is rising rapidly. In fact, some surveys suggest that within a few decades, the U.S. could start looking more like Europe. But even then, religion in America is unlikely to disappear. Its deep historical roots, its ties to politics and community, and its cultural adaptability mean it will remain more influential here than in almost any other wealthy country. Whether you see that as a strength or a weakness depends on your perspective. But one thing is clear: the U.S. is proof that wealth and modernity don't always lead to less religion. Sometimes they just change the way religion looks. And maybe that's the ultimate lesson. Religion in America isn't just about God. It's about identity, belonging, and the idea of what it means to be American. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And let me know in the comments, do you think America will stay religious? Or is it finally heading towards secularization like the rest of the developed world?